Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. This is your host Vaibhav. In today's session of Daily Stock, we are going to continue looking at the quarterly results of one more financial institution, the Wells Fargo Bank. This is a major financial player in the United States, and we are going to look at its third quarter, that is the quarter ended 30th September 2023 financial statements to see what is in the store for the prospective investors. We are going to look at the past financial performance to draw the inference for the upcoming quarters and see if there are opportunities to invest and trade in the shares of the bank. So let us now head to the financial statements. The third quarter financial year 2023 financial results are here with us. These are simply taken from the bank's investors relation page itself. So we are relying on these publicly available information to draw the inference and help us in deciding whether there is opportunity to look at the price fluctuations, price movements of the share price of the Wells Fargo. For the bank, the quarter was quite good, and main reason for the rising revenues, rising interest income for the major financial institution has been the simple fact that the interest rates have risen sharply over last couple of quarters, and that has fueled the growth in revenues, growth in earnings for almost all the major financial institutions which were not having any structural issues prior to this development. Just a while back, I think in yesterday's session itself, we saw the financial results for the Bank of America, and prior to that, also in case of JP Morgan and Chase, we saw the revenues are on the rise, and the same holds true for the Wells Fargo as well, which has seen substantial increase in its total revenues, and most of the major segments from which the bank derives its income are doing well compared to the third quarter of 2022. There is a positive momentum, and that is also rubbing off on the share prices of these financial institutions with a slight uptick since these results have been announced. For the Wells Fargo, we received its financial statements on October 30th, that is last week. And here, these are the key highlights of the Wells Fargo's earnings, with its net interest income now standing at US dollar 13.1 billion, which is substantially up 8 percentage point up. And for the bank of this size, this kind of rise in income is only once in a decade phenomena, because this kind of interest rate changes are not usually seen, and this is, you can say, a one-off increase, and this kind of growth in revenues is not likely to be sustained, but still the headwinds are positive, and we have this momentum on the upside, with the interest rates still continuing to rise, albeit at a slower pace. With this in mind, I think the next couple of quarters are likely to be quite good from the perspective of earnings for these major financial institutions, and Wells Fargo is also going to capitalize on this and continue to do well. If we look at the breakup, the non-interest income was also up, but at a slower pace of 4%, with these cumulative revenues rising handsomely by 7% to now stand at $20.9 billion. And if we look at the net income, let us look at the net income position. The net income for the bank is also quite higher, with the net income being almost $2 billion higher than what it was for the third quarter of 2022. And that is why I said this kind of growth in earnings, growth in revenues, growth in income doesn't happen all the time. This is a one-off phenomenon, and we will have to consider the fundamental factors which are contributing to this substantial growth for the earnings of the bank, with EPS now rising to US dollar 1.48 from less than $1 a year back. So there is this year-on-year rise of more than 50 percentage point, almost close to 60 to 70% growth is being seen in the EPS. The credit quality is also holding well. The company has also made allowances for some credit losses of the loans. Now this is the statement on the bank's assets and liabilities. The loans are assets for the bank, whereas the deposits are its liabilities, and the bank's current position on both of these fronts is quite comfortable. There is a decline in the average loans. The average deposits are also down, so there is some moderation on both these fronts. The net interest income is up. This is the major highlight of this quarter. The expenses are down, while at the same time the income is up, which has resulted in almost $2 billion US dollar 2 billion worth of increase in the net income for the bank. Now these are segmental results from here onwards. These are the segment results of the consumer banking, with these revenues growing by US dollar 433 million compared to the third quarter of 2022. So there is growth in the consumer banking and lending segment. Commercial banking has also seen increase in the revenues of just little over US dollar 419 million. The corporate investment banking is also seeing a growth of US dollar 141 million. Wealth and investment management actually has seen decline, with this net loss, net decrease of US dollar 81 million. Corporate banking is also seeing negative growth. So these were the segment results, and these are the company-wide statement with total revenue standing at US dollar 20.85 billion. Now, if we dwell on these company-wide financial information, you can clearly see that the interest income is substantially higher with this 8% growth, and non-interest income is also higher by 4 percentage points. So these total revenues are higher by 7 percentage points, the cumulative income. And as I said in my introductory remark, this is not likely to be sustained, but still moving forward, we can expect the sentiments to remain positive, and this recent decline and moderation which we have seen in the share price, I think that is likely to give way to some sort of positive momentum, at least from the short term perspective. We have already seen the share price of most of these banks starting to nudge higher. The Wells Fargo is no exception. It is also seeing this upward momentum since the release of its financial statements for the third quarter of 2022, and this positive momentum has been continuing for last couple of sessions. In today's session, it is trading almost flat, slightly lower compared to the yesterday's closing price. But overall, the picture is of these higher lows and higher highs from these short-term perspective. And if we enlarge the time frame to see how things are shaping up, for the Wells Fargo, the things are not as bearish as was the case for Bank of America. We saw the share price of Bank of America in yesterday's session. Let me go back to the Bank of America share price for drawing a comparison. The Bank of America had seen much more correction in its share price in recent past, and this is the charting for the Bank of America's stock, which is also up since the release of its quarterly earnings. But if we compare it to the price moves of the Wells Fargo, you can see that sentiments have been better for the Wells Fargo, and it had seen substantial decline way back in 2022. After that, it has been consolidating with slight bias on the bearish side, and even at this current juncture, it is trading higher than where it was in the month of April. So, if you are an investor and you are looking at the comparison of the stock from the buying perspective, the Wells Fargo stock looks better poised. But the thing is that both of these are still in negative territory from the medium term to long term perspective. Only in short term, the momentum is slightly shifting and tilting towards the upside. But if we look at the larger picture, it is still bearish, and because of that, we will have to trade cautiously, and if we have to indeed go for investing in the bank stock from the longer term, I think we do need to wait it out and allow things to turn where we have the formation of higher highs and higher lows, and maybe in that kind of scenario we can think about investing it from the larger time frame. But right now things are not that promising, and because of that I feel it is better for us to wait it out purely from the short term perspective. If your time horizon is only a couple of days, you can think about getting involved and trying your hands on the shares of the Wells Fargo in a couple of sessions coming ahead. Whenever you feel that the risk reward ratio is optimum, as and when it is holding close to its recent swing low, where as long as its formation is of higher highs and higher lows. So from short-term perspective, the momentum is now shifting towards the upside, but from the medium term to longer term, we will still need to wait for further clarity and confirmation of the formation of higher high. Till that time, it is better to wait it out and sit on the sidelines if you are not someone to short the shares. In that case, it is better to sit on the sidelines and wait for clarity to emerge. So that's my outlook from the short term as well as from the medium to longer term perspective. We saw its fundamental side as well as the technical side and try to make sense of what is happening on both these fronts to see if there are emerging opportunities for us to exploit. And the takeaway is that in the short term, we can indeed think for going long in the share price of the Wells Fargo. But if your time horizon is higher, then it is better to sit on the sidelines and wait for more opportune time to come. So that's my take. If you have any query or any idea to share, do write to me in the feedback and I'll be more than happy to take the discussion forward. To come back tomorrow with another share to discuss and see its fundamental as well as the technical side to assess the emerging opportunities for us to trade to invest. See you next time around. Thank you all for joining in. Goodbye.